On Steve Hislop as he goes through the hairpin. He is pounding away, just faster laps all the time. And you can still see how wet.
Certainly a zone. By with 6 races remaining, but it ain't over yet.
48 points clear. Is it yours now?
Chelsea and Arsenal prepare to kick off at Stamford Bridge. Hasselbank's on the bench for Chelsea and Thierry Henry is missing for Arsenal, and Bolton still lead Aston Villa by a goal to nil. In fact, that's a result.
Of the cross-country course are down to Wolfgang Feld, the new man in charge, and he has built a course that will test even the very best riders. They're all here, by the way, despite the fact that the World Championships is just 2 weeks away. And as well as the cross-country course, they've had to negotiate a brand new dressage test, and they'll cope with slightly different penalty points in the show jumping. We'll explain all of that over the course of the programme. And here's what else is coming up. The top riders explain how it should be done. We go behind the stable door with Pippa Funnell at her home in Surrey. We'll see the thrills and spills of the new-look Burghley cross-country course. And Blythe Tate is back from a fractured cheekbone, but has he still got the face for top competition? Firstly, though, the dressage, and to take us through the smooth moves, here's Lorna Clark.
Dressage is relative to all 3 phases of the 3-day event. It is the physical development of the horse plus training it to complete obedience. Here, as you see, the horse changes leg across the arena, leading with the right leg so smoothly it changes to the left leg because it is changed in direction. It also does a lovely sweeping turn, active, obedient, supple and light. Here on the cross country you see the same. The horse changes leg and then takes this lovely turn round, just like in the dressage, back to the fence, doesn't fight the rider, listens, and then again is picked up and does a beautiful balanced turn back round. All this comes from the dressage schooling. Once again, we see the flying change. Watch the legs. There it changes to the right leg. This is so important in cross country and in show jumping. It can also change leg in the air. If you watch, the horse comes in on left leg, it's indicated that he's going right and lands on right leg leading. Here the horse comes round the corner in collected canter, then moves away as the rider drives it forward with his leg. The horse answers, and then at the other end of the arena once again comes right back to that collected canter without fighting or resisting. So important in the other 2 phases. You can see it now on the cross country. After landing over the fence, the horse moves on away from the rider's leg, between the fences to make up the time, and then coming to the next upright fence, the rider steadies him just as the dressage and brings him back. Now, lovely change of leg across the arena. So accurate and obedient. This beautiful test from Pippa Funnell, reigning European champion. And again, another change there. Brought her into the top position in this phase. Pippa led from start to finish at Badminton. Can she do the same here at Burghley?
Well, it's going to be tough because this is how tight it is at the top. Pippa Funnell leading by just 1.8 of a penalty point from Andrew Hoy on Mr. Prakatan. Mary King is well placed on King Solomon. Andrew Nicholson, Leslie Law and William Fox-Pitt also up there. William also has his second horse, Moonman, in 12th. And look at that in 15th. Lester Piggott, the horse, rather than the jockey. The cross country, though, is the crucial part. Now from the style and elegance of the dressage to a cross-country course that's most definitely been built for the brave. Let's find out what the top names make of some of the key fences.
G'day, welcome to Fence 7. This is the new leaf pit combination, and this year we're entering at the bottom of the pit, which poses its first problem, having plenty of revs to get up this really steep hill. At the top of this hill, have quite a large, wide dog kennel. And I suspect a few horses are going to run out of revs, and you might see a few horses clamber over the top of this. Once we survive this, it's around the top edge here to the next jump coming back down. So after jumping fence 7, we make our way around the top lip of the leaf pit and then come down this next really steep slope into this pretty damn big log. Now the problem I foresee is that because this is so steep, the horses could lose their balance, get on their forehand a little bit, and they might hit the top of this log, which probably won't make the horses fall, but it will unbalance the riders, maybe even unseat the riders, which is disastrous really, because on landing down here, we've got to make a really accurate, tight right-hand turn to fence number 9. Now, this is going to be really interesting for such a up and down complex this early in the course.
Here I am at the pigsty combination. We have 3 fences. We have 3 tables. They're all exactly the same size and shape. They're very narrow in their face and very wide in their width. 4 strides between each of the 3 jumps. Let's count them. We land here. We take our first stride. 1 stride. 2 strides. 3 strides. And 4 strides. The horse leaves the ground having done a 90-degree turn to the left. Now he's got another 90-degree turn to the right. Onto the 3rd table. This is a true test of horse and rider for availability, accuracy, skill, and finally courage.
This is fence 16, the Burghley bank, fence that needs lots of attacking, plenty of revs down the hill to get a nice shot close to the ditch to get far enough onto the bank, and then the horses will get here. If they're going forward, they will either fiddle a stride and jump off or bounce off, whichever way. You've got to attack it. This is certainly a rider frightener with an imposing drop, but once you're in the air, your troubles are behind you.
And here we are at number 24, the Cat's Whiskers. Nearing the end of the course, about 9.5 minutes, so the horses are going to be getting tired at this stage. Long downhill approach, horses are going to be getting on their forehands, and here we've got a serious question, a very narrow, quite big stump with a brush behind, which makes the rider want to slow the horse down to get him organised. And yet between the 2 stumps here, you've got 3 long strides where you need to keep the horse forwards, encouraging him to keep that stride. Otherwise, you could maybe get 4 and end up on a half stride. And in between the 2 stumps, we've got a cat house here, which could actually push the horse out off your line, increasing the chances of a run out at the 2nd option here at B.
Well, that's what they made of it on foot, so let's see how they cope in the saddle and join our commentary team of Lorna Clark and Mike Tucker. But in the meantime, this is the 2nd last fence, so I think I'd better get out the way.
Well, as the riders have been telling us, there's plenty for the riders to think about. Their target time there, 12:33 for just over 7,000 metres. And it's Australian Bill Levitt with Time Will Tell that gets us underway. Huge air of anticipation out there and a lot of butterflies for the riders. Here's the first question they've got to answer in the ring, the Master Foods Picnic. The white line is the direct route, the orange line, the route that'll take a little bit longer. And of course, it's all against the clock. Big crowd once again have come to this wonderful venue. And it's all about accuracy, courage and skill. And Bill Levitt's very experienced. This horse that competed badminton this time. Very good line, straight as a die. That'll give him confidence. But there's plenty of problems that come up in this first half of the 7,000, just over 7,000 metre course. Bill Levitt now down to the Rural Crofts corner. And the problems come thick and fast, Lorna.
Yes, Wolfgang Felt, the course builder, very experienced, been building for many, many years. The riders all admire him. Here he's given the course a whole new facelift. 26 new fences, slightly new direction, entirely new look, and the riders are really have been discussing it very earnestly because he builds very big, but he's usually very trustworthy as a course builder. Usually it looks big but rides well. This is one of the early problems, the leaf pit, but I think most people thought it would ride quite well. It's a nice round log down there, and then again a very inviting fence here with a slight dropout.
Those undulations make it difficult, and here's more undulations. That's the quick way. There's the orange route, the long way, and there's probably 5 or 6 seconds difference there. Bill Levitt, one of the long-listed riders for the World Equestrian Games, but he's missed out on the selection. So he's brought his horse here, and in 14th place after dressage, so he's close enough. Well, here's Britain's great hope, former winner on Charker back in 1994, William Foxpitt on Moon Man, a horse that he's really improved over the last couple of years. And you don't find many more accurate riders than this. Always keeps a lovely rhythm.
Yes, well, here's one of the places where Wolfgang Feld has been very brave, putting in an upright gate. Very few course builders dare build one nowadays because they're frightened it'll tip the horses up. But I think it's a good fence. It makes the riders really have to be responsible for themselves, bring the horses back. Then they come down to this long distance of 2 spread fences into the upper trout hatchery.
Big crowd round this as usual. It's always one that the crowd love, and odd ducking a 2 doesn't do any harm.
Wolfgang, would you say, Mike, has been using quite a lot of long strides between the fences on this course. Very often the horses really have to reach for the outs.
Yes, they're courses that have got to be attacked, and there's no better man than this to do just that. William Foxpitt, talked of by Yogi Breisner, the team manager, in the same league as Mark Todd, and that is very, very high praise. Impressive start. But here's the pigsties now, the short route, requiring control and balance and rhythm, and the long route, well, that's about 20 seconds more, I'd think. A lot of time lost if you go that long route. So here comes, time will tell, Bill Levitt. 6:13 is the target time he would need to be here, so he's 11 seconds up on that.
And this is one of the places your dressage really comes in to tell the truth, because if you can turn accurately, quickly and obediently without fighting, you can jump it just like that.
Well, he comes on down to this big bank. This is the fence that the riders have been talking about. You've got to throw your heart over this, and you don't like doing that when going downhill, Lorna. It's quite steep downhill too.
It's one fence on the course I did not want to jump when I walked the course.
They jump it well.
He certainly did. William now comes to this upright gate. Just a little knee knocker. Riders really have to check the horses back, control them, get them balanced before they come into that. Then they have to move on a little bit to this next combination because it's long, but William will have walked it 3 times at least and knows exactly how fast to come in to get the right length of stride.
Yeah, and just note, Lorna, the route that William's taken there. He's literally going round the inside track all of the way, keeps the rhythm, and that's what gives him good times. And of course, after dressage, Moonman in 12th place, he's right there. Now, the treble Olympic gold medalist, Andrew Hoy, with Mr. Prakatan, just takes a little look at that big ditch, but turns, and turns well.
He does, and what's amazing to see all these top riders riding so many different horses and still coming up with the right answers every time.
So Williams 15 seconds up at the clock here. The time to beat, 12:33 seconds as it were. That's the time they'll have no time faults. Beautifully done, as you'd expect from William through there. As we look at the dairy farm, over halfway round, there's the direct route, and there is the long route. Wolfgang really got them going the long ways for those who don't fancy the short routes. And the distance in here has been one of the talking points in this fence, Lorna.
Yes, once again, a long 2 to the little egg, or dinosaur egg, on the way out.
And here comes William Foxpitt and Moonman, a horse he's improved so much over the last 2 years. And well out over that, absolutely classic.
Yes, he did what you have to. He attacked that bank. It's not an easy bank to attack. Now Andrew at this little gate again. It looks flimsy. The horses don't always respect them. You just have to make sure that the rider does plenty of work to get the horse in the right position to jump it.
Well, this is Mr. Prakatan's first competition at this level, so it'll be interesting to see how he answers the questions. Andrew, a world-class jockey, of course, so the rider will give the horse every chance, that's for certain. Just a little hesitant there, but Andrew quickly sits up, gets his balance, and gives the horse the perfect ride to get through.
Another of the new fences out on the Avenue of Honour, where all the past winners are. It's jumped very well so far. 2 very big, imposing hedges with tree stumps in front, but quite narrow on the approach.
Well, Bill Levitt quickly looking at his watch, and I think the reason he's doing that, Lorna, because he's getting behind the clock. And certainly Wolfgang has slowed them down in several places, as we now see how Andrew's doing on the clock, and he's 21 seconds up. They seem to be getting halfway in good time, but then they seem to be losing it.
Well, Wolfgang is renowned at not letting too many horses get round in the time, and that's a good thing because you don't want it won entirely on the dressage.
Lion Bridge Complex, the last really serious test, and these fences come very quickly and on the turn a little bit, so the horses are going to have to still be full of running, and time will tell does look full of running at this stage. He's, what, about just over half a mile from the finish. Quite a big drop, then he's got to sit up under the beautiful arch. Turns back, and what about that for a view, but Bill Levitt won't have any thought for that. And up the hill, and now he has a chance to make a little bit of time up if he's got the horse underneath so to do. The horse lengthens, that's good to see. Perfect weather, quite cool. Now, Andrew really doesn't like this bank. He's been quite verbal about it. He's talked to the grand jury. Oh, and he climbed all over it.
Yes, but getting over it's the main thing as long as you go between the flags.
Moonfleet, or rather Moon Man it is. Moonfleet's the horse that Andrew Hoy's going to ride in the World Games. Moon Man and William Fox Pitt still keeping that lovely rhythm. That's the art of cross-country riding. And here's Bill Levitt for Australia now, coming to the Orangery. This, the last turn on the course. He's only got two fences left after the, well, one left after the picture frame. Oh dear, and the horse just beginning to get tired, and he turned in a bit quick perhaps.
Well, here's the Dairy Mound. Big hit, and again just rattled that, very hesitant over the log there, just showing slight inexperience perhaps.
Bill Levitt coming from home. Remember, we're counting down. We're looking for 12 minutes 33, and that would not then add penalties. His dressage score of 53.4, and he is not going to make it, but very close. He's only going to add 0.4 of a second, penalty rather, for every second, and he's just 5 seconds over, 55.40, and that's going to be the target score.
Well, William Fox Pitt, who's once again giving us an example of how to ride a cross-country course. He really is the most beautiful rider nowadays. Gets a great deal of admiration both from other riders and from the officials.
Well, there's no doubt that Burghley is a great title, but this is great sight for the World Equestrian Games.
He didn't put a foot wrong up until the second last, and I knew I was a bit down, and I took a chance when I should have just waited, you know. And he was just, you know, starting to feel the pinch of the endurance, so he probably would have responded a little quicker earlier in the track. But so then when I realised he wasn't going to make it, I just had to sit there and sit tight, really. Just glad I sat there so close to home.
Well, there's one happy man, and here's a man who knows all about it. One of the 5 winners in the field, New Zealander Andrew Nicholson, won 2 years ago, was close behind Clive Tate last year, riding New York, very experienced horse, and he's well there after dressage, 4th place, 47.6, everything to play for, Lorna.
Yes, and one of the strongest, most determined riders in the business. Got legs like a vice, really keeps the horse together, keeps him going forward, absolutely makes him obedient.
Moon Man and William Fox Pitt driving for the line. He's a great judge of pace, and has he judged it? It's going to be very close indeed, safely over the last, and he stops the clock on the dot. No, 1 second over, so 0.4 of a penalty added to his dressage score, and he now takes over the lead from Bill Levitt.
Well, if experience stands for anything, Andrew's got that, and what's more, he's got a great season behind him. He's really been going well this year, and that builds up your confidence. He's such a talented jockey.
He was absolutely foot perfect, actually. He really over-jumped once or twice, but he can do that. He's so bold, and he just was terrific. And the lay of the land and the hills and the way Wolfgang set the course out made the time quite difficult to get. I think I was a second over, which is annoying, but he really did give me a fantastic ride.
Well, there's lots of guesses how many might be inside the time, but it certainly looks at the moment it's going to be difficult, as Andrew Hoy now with Mr. Prakatan near the end of the course. Andrew's nursed the confidence of this horse. His great Darien powers retired now.
Andrew comes to this big combination on the 2 strides, doesn't make it look long, because like all the experienced riders, knows he has to attack it, really come down strongly into it. Now, they don't want to go too fast into this one. They've been pecking on landing. Long 2 strides again there. Sometimes it's almost better to go for 3. Make sure they get up the bank. If you don't get up the step, you certainly don't get out over the last bit.
So again, another one over the time. As you can see, counting up now, that's 0.4 for every second you see ticking away. Andrew, who'll be riding for Australia in 2 weeks' time in the Worlds. His wife riding for Germany, of course, Bettina. And stops the clock on 22 seconds over and 53.61. He goes second place behind William Fox Pitt now.
Matt Ryan now. Matt, another very experienced jockey. Olympic gold medalist. Turns this very difficult corner early on in the course.
And they jump the B-part element there very well.
Mr. Prakitan's just lacking a little bit of confidence at this level. It's his first time at this level, and to start with, I didn't go too fast. I just wanted to have some really nice jumps around over the first few fences, and then I got down on the clock, and then once you get down, it's just really difficult to make any time up.
So William Fox Pitt ahead of Andrew Hoy, and then Bill Levitt, Australia second and third at the moment. Now what Matt Ryan can do for Australia, we'll see. Khyber Sandstone, 18 years old, very experienced, but of course he had his great Khyber TikTok that was 18 years old when it won the Olympic gold. Very sound across country, this man.
Well, many a good tune played in an old fiddle, as they say, and if these horses are fit and well, why shouldn't they? In the meantime, Andrew just checking back. This is a very, very difficult combination. It looks quite easy because so far you've seen good horses do it and brilliant jockeys, but it is not an easy turn, and they're big spread fences.
So Matt Ryan coming to this gate. It looks so flimsy compared to so many of the fences that are built these days. It has tipped up one competitor so far. And there's been quite a lot of incident out on the course, but the top guys are certainly answering the questions at the moment, although they're not making it look that easy, Lorna, as Matt did have a little bit of a problem there.
Yeah, he didn't just cover enough ground quickly enough between the fence, so he had to really reach and almost kick back off the last bit. You can see the horse's legs covered with grease. As they do hit something, they slip over, don't injure themselves. Matt a little behind the movement there, in the defensive position, as we say.
Oh, here comes Andrew Nicholson down to that Burghley bank, and there's a huge crowd around this bank. Oh, and that's forceful riding. That's what you'd expect from this man. He is made of steel, this guy. Watch it again.
It is a nasty fence. You go down on the forehand, and then the horse has to leap up and, in theory, go again without any stride at all. Some horses have been fiddling, but he did it as you're supposed to, with the persuasion of Andrew.
Well, here's Mary King with King Solomon III, fourth here, fifth here. Mary missed out on selection for the Worlds, and she wants to win here. She's won it, of course, before, and she's in a pretty handy position after dressage with King Solomon, 46.40, third place. She's all set up to try again.
Matt, this horse is not easy in the head, so he's going to be very difficult turning in between the fences, although as he's got older, he has got better about not fighting.
That look of concentration all over Mary's face. Husband and two tall children watching on the closed circuit. Way up over the house, but Mary sits well up, in fact almost sits behind the movement, Lorna.
Well, as I was saying about Matt, slightly in the defensive position sometimes. I suppose, if the riders know their horses, or if the horse isn't very clever in front, you don't want to be in front of the movement because they can ping you out so easily. It's happened to most of us at some time or other.
Now it's Matt Ryan down to the bank, and I think you'll see him sit back here. Yes. New Zealand have won this title for the last 5 runnings, but Australia is strong in their challenge this year. But they're going to have to really drive for it, because this man is right there after dressage, Lorna.
Yes, and he'll sail through this lovely fence, the Cat's Whiskers. He's jumped very well so far. It has been the odd run out, but basically it's ridden very well. Lovely view down to the house from that fence, and as you approach that fence, it really is the most beautiful setting.
Mary King coming down to the tri-attach showing King Solomon. She's been a good winner on this horse. She's won in Samuel, won in Blenheim, won at Axel Swang. So the horse is very experienced, and of course she's won Burghley in badminton.
Yeah, there aren't many things Mary hasn't won. Her luck seems to leave her a little bit at the Olympics, but that's about it. She got 3 neat strides in there, and I think that might be the way to ride it, to make it tidier.
Kyver Sandstone, good on the clock at the moment. Remember, no one at the moment without any time penalties.
He just got that a bit wrong. He's on a longish rein, and he kicks him on, drives him in, and the horse just puts a little extra stride in. There isn't room, and he sort of catches it on the way up and catches it on the way down. But being a round fence, it doesn't hurt him.
Now, will this be the first man to get no time penalties? He's gone very quickly. Coming down to the Lion Bridge, New York, a horse that really first came to prominence for Andrew 4 years ago. I remember he rode him in the Worlds at Rome, and in fact he's chosen to ride Fenicio in the Worlds, and that's why New York is trying to win the money here. And he looks at his clock, and I think it's pretty good news. It's going to be close though, but that's a good sight because the horse really looking fit and extending.
Absolutely moving away from his leg very well there, just opening up the gallop.
And this is a good time from Mary. She's 22 seconds up on the clock, but as we said earlier, the interesting bit about this is they're losing time on the second half of the course. And for instance, Mark Phillips, the American trainer, former winner here, he thought the first half was more difficult than the second half of this course.
And I think part of the course so clever is the turns, so they can't really go as fast as they'd like to. They have long spaces where they can gallop between the fences, but then they have to keep coming back to check the horses, and that's when you lose time.
Matt Ryan of the Cat's Whiskers. This has ridden well so far. Very quickly into his stride, and here's another man quickly into his stride as they fly for home. And this is going to be very, very close. Remember that time at the top, it needs to be 0 or minus to get him inside and nothing to add, and he is. Look at that for a piece of judgment. And that actually is the 3rd time he's been absolutely on the dot here at Burghley, and he goes into the lead.
Well, another of our top British jockeys also going to the World Championships, the World Games. Leslie Law, Leslie on what some had considered his second horse, but now very much catching up on his top horse. This horse is now gaining experience event after event and really been proving himself as equally good as Leslie's other ride.
It's a fair test. I think a lot of riders thought it was too much, but you know, and I can understand them thinking that because they probably have never ridden one of Wolfgang's courses. But I've been lucky enough to ride in Lemulin quite a few times, which he used to do. Barcelona, you know, Barcelona, I don't think there was anyone inside the time. You know, so he is renowned for building them big, and you know, they look very technical when you walk them. But horses like jumping them. He knows what a horse can do naturally, and he uses it.
Well, Andrew doesn't worry about speaking his mind, so that's praise indeed as Leslie Law and Shearlow come to the Brush Valley Crossing. This is a horse that went very well in the Rolex Kentucky 3-day event, the big 4-star in America in the spring. Finished 7th then, and of course Leslie part of the gold medal team last year in Po for the Europeans.
Well, Matt Ryan getting towards the end of the course now. This complex here, another one that wastes a lot of time. If you've been making good time, you have to turn back on yourself here, away from the direction of home. Some riders thought this was quite an unkind test on the horses this late on, but quite honestly, if the horses are fit and well and ready for the job, they should be perfectly all right with it. Combination of fences and then long gallops in between. And now he's got a very long gallop where he can really make up time, use the petrol that's left in the tank.
Mary King coming to the dairy farm, still clear. Remember, right in contention, just 3rd after dressage, and he's making a very good round of it so far. Leslie Law. Oh, and the horse thinks twice about that.
Yes, he landed short off the first one and just didn't make the stride forward. He probably saw the water in the background. They do back off water and don't cover the ground as much as they do on clean fences.
This is where the top riders are so good these days. They're so quick to react. And Leslie Law, one of the best.
Here, as you see, he lands very short, very close to the fence. 1 stride, 2 stride. Oh gosh, I need another stride. There isn't room. Help. And takes off and sort of flings himself into the air. Very brave, but not brave on the approach.
Well, this is a nice sight for the riders, and it's a nice sight for Matt Ryan, but I think he's going to be a little bit over. Yeah, look at that. As much as 40 seconds and more. This horse does pull, and a hard-pulling horse is so difficult to get the time. But he's going to come into the top 10. Australia packing him in at the moment. And, of course, Australia have left 1 or 2 of their stars out, surprisingly, for the World Games. They're looking for youth, and have they made a mistake? Matt Ryan into 5th then. Australia and then 3 in the top 5 now. And what can Mary King do about that?
Well, she's going pretty well so far. She comes down to this, as we said, difficult turn into the second water. The water, of course, nowadays is quite a lot shallower than it used to be, and therefore the horses can really keep cantering in it, which does make jumping easier.
Now there's a good line that explains your point, Lorna. The horse still very fit, very well balanced, and Mary saved a lot of time there through that line bridge, and that's what you've got to do. Mary means to show the selectors that she should have been in the World Games team, and she's trying.
It's nice to have so many riders that we have to leave some out. Sheer low now. As I say, this fence is, because we're watching the top riders, it is looking easy, but it is a very difficult combination of fences.
Yes, there's been a lot of horses pop out of that, 20 penalties. It's caused quite a big influence. Now, Mary King at the orangery. And again, the horse looking very economical, and that's where it's very quick, I think. So this is Leslie Law at the Dairy Farm fences. Sheer H2O, Leslie's best horse, 3rd at Badminton, of course.
Mary now just not over-rushing him towards the end. She comes to the last. She's over the time, but it's a good round. She'll be pleased with that.
3rd place, proving the good dressage and then an economical cross-country, and of course show jumping still to come, and Mary looks to have judged that with plenty of energy for tomorrow.
Yes, you have to keep a little left in the tank for tomorrow, because you've got to jump around at show jumps, and you can lose a lot of penalties in the show jumping and throw it all away. Plus the horses have to be sound for the final day. Leslie just having to work a little here. He's finding the turns quite difficult, but the horse is answering.
Leslie pushing on, he's going to be close.
You know, there was a lot to think about, and but no, Solly he's very experienced. I mean, if any horse could do it, he was going to, and yeah, I mean, he made it feel very easy.
So Mary King's up there for Britain now. Can Leslie Law join them with Sheer Low? Again, this is wonderful practice for our team in Jerez. Just 2 weeks away, and Leslie's going to be close. This is another very professional ride. Jeremy Lawton and the Shearwater horses and Leslie Law make a fantastic team for Great Britain. And there we are, he's right close to it. Oh, only 2-3 seconds over, and he now goes second.
So the halfway stage, just 2 riders inside the time. Andrew Nicholson, who was bang on it with New York, he leads, and Jeanette Breakwell after a great round on Plantagenet of Rushall. But still to come, the overnight leader, Pippa Funnell on Primmore's Pride, and Polly Stockton on Word for Word.
Well, the top riders are all looking very easy, but there's plenty of action out there. Katie Burton, the former Katie Parker, making a mistake at the gate and paying the penalty. Wiggy Fox Pitt very close to home, but then she takes the ducking that, of course, the crowds enjoy. Horse and rider none the worse. A rider can have 2 falls before they've got to retire. Well, now Aileen Wilkes, one of the many first-time riders here, having a really unfortunate trip, and then 20 penalties. She ducks out of the Brush Valley crossing. And Eddie Stibber, more 3-day events than anyone, and what a horse. Stumbles, picks him up, and Eddie quick to find his way out of trouble. And then Claire Phillips and Capuchin. So close, but no, eventually she too hits the dust. Polly Jackson and Limestone Rising, well, she was lucky. Takes down the unjumpable, recovers, and gets home with only 20 penalties. And Vanessa Lloyd-Davis, the doctor of the King's Troop, she tried to take the crowd on. And then Olympic rider Karen O'Connor for Ballymar takes a tumble coming out of the trout hatchery and goes out of the competition. But the horses are the stars too. Just look where the saddle is on the American horse Dalliance, and amazingly enough, the horse, quite unconcerned, got home all of the way for Robert Costello. But here is a man with a lot on his mind, the reigning Burghley champion and of course the defending world champion, Blythe Tate, riding Rongate, a young horse. Now, will he go and try and defend that title, or will he be thinking of the world title? He's got a good dressage score. He's on 57.8 in 25th place. But what were his thoughts on the course?
I like it. It's strong, it's inviting. There are some difficult fences. I think it'll ride well for the horses that stay confident and for the riders that are attacking all the way.
The hardest thing for you, though, is the disrupted season that you've had.
Yeah, it's been a bit stop-start. This is only my second competition of the whole autumn. I had a little accident earlier and I've been recovering from a broken cheekbone. But, you know, I've been around a bit, fairly experienced, so hopefully it shouldn't put me off too much.
Well, he says a little incident, but it was really quite a nasty freak accident. He had a nasty operation on his eye and cheekbone. And I think even though he's been a great champion, he will be very much treating this as a round with the Worlds in 2 weeks' time in mind.
Well, another very experienced New Zealand combination. This time it's Dan Jocelyn. Dan, who had that lovely horse Silence, or has that lovely horse Silence. He's now riding a new horse, Pee-wee. Haven't seen this horse out before. Starts very nicely. Looks very scopy and athletic in his jump. A lot for a young horse to take on. Same with Blythe's horse. First time this type of course, it's very daunting for them. There are a lot of questions coming up thick and fast. They have to rely on the riders to interpret the problem in front.
So Blythe coming round to this second trout hatchery, and in fact there have been one or two horses looking to make an error in there and just stumbled, and in fact as a result he rather steps across that step out, but they recover well.
Dan Jocelyn, with these young horses you have to give them all the help you can. You're the one with the experience, so you have to really keep them confident. Don't give them a fright on the way round. Make any mistakes. There's plenty of places on this course where they could get a fright, but it's a very fair course.
Well, Lorna, Dan has finished third here in 2001 with that great New Zealand competition last year. That was on Silence, as you say.
So far, so good for Blythe. Again, quite a lot of questions here. 3 big combinations on the turn.
Yes, and interestingly enough, Lorna, he was 29 seconds up on the clock. That's a lot of time, and he looks to be doing it easily.
So far, so good, as they say.
Well, here comes Blythe down to this big bank. The New Zealanders with only 5 horses instead of 6 going to Jerez, so that's quite a surprise, but the riders look to be in good form.
Not since 1985 in Ginny Holgate has the same rider won both Badminton and Burghley in the same season. But one person in this year's field could do it. Pippa Funnell, who won Badminton on Supreme Rock and took a silver medal at the Sydney Olympics. Well, I went behind the scenes at her Surrey stables to find out all about her. So can you remember as a child always wanting to be an eventer?
Yeah, I mean, right from word go, you know, I started very young, as soon as I was big enough to ride, really. But it was probably actually not until I got Barnaby when I was 13 that I ended up specialising and wanting to go eventing. And I was very fortunate because even at the age of 18 I was riding at Badminton, which doesn't happen so much nowadays. But I really had the taste of early international sort of success with Sir Barnaby at Gatcombe and Badminton and Burghley. So, you know, I was lucky that I had a horse of that calibre when I was so young. And he was sort of a horse of a lifetime, and I was like a young kid with a dream, and he fulfilled the dream.
Now, in terms of the mental approach to riding cross-country, how do you think you've changed in the last few years?
I had to work very hard on the mental side. I think I found I used to really suffer from the nerves, and the nerves used to work against me, whereas I've learnt with the help of a sports psychologists and William and various people that I've turned my whole way of thinking, so the nerves very much work for me, and I'm much more positive the way I think now compared to how I used to think, and I think it's made a huge difference knowing that my nerves now work in favour. I also had to work physically on my position cross country, but also having, you know, some super horses, it makes you more confident anyway.
Just talk a bit about winning badminton and how much of an ambition of yours that was.
I think it's the equivalent to Wimbledon in our sport. I mean, it is probably the biggest one that we all want to win. And you know, for a long time I've dreamt of going well and having a really good ride there. But you know, winning, I thought, well, one day maybe. So it was amazing when it happened this year.
Now, moving on to the World Championships, what's your preparation like between now and Jerez?
Pretty manic really, because between now and then we run it in Scotland this weekend at the Scottish Open, and then from there we go straight to Burghley, and then it's Blenheim, and then it's the World, so it's go, go, go. I mean, I feel very positive and very confident, and hopefully we've got a great team, because five of the six that are going all finished in the top 12 at badminton, so I think we all feel very positive.
And this is him, the superstar himself.
Supreme Rock, who we've always called Rocky. He's been a fantastic horse over the last 4 or 5 years. I really have had some amazing rides on him, and it's that brain and heart which you can never buy. I think that's what makes all great horses, however much you train them, is that will to win really, and I think that's, you compare them with, you know, Desert Orchid, Milton. I think as much as they had very good, you know, a lot of ability, it was the will to win that made them such great horses. One of his strongest points is that he is a very relaxed horse 99% of the time, but that's where he's so fantastic, is at the major events when there's so much atmosphere and loads of people around. He really grows to that occasion without going over the top and getting too lit up and silly. I mean, he is a show-off, but keeps it all contained, which is what you want, and it's quite difficult to get that in event horse when you have to have them so fit for the competitions.
So how do you view Burghley as a competition?
Burghley is personally one of my favourites. I think in a way there's a nicer, more relaxed atmosphere at Burghley than at badminton, because the whole year doesn't hang on how they perform, and it comes at the back end of the year, so the atmosphere is always great there. But having said that, it's still a major competition. I mean, it's our main competition in the autumn.
Well, it's Prima's Pride she rides this afternoon. It's a 9-year-old. It's actually quite young in experience, as it were. Good dressage start, of course, but it's a very big horse, so it'll be very interesting how it copes with this competition. Second at Punchestown, the big Irish 3-day event in May of this year, and also Blenheim last year went well in 4th. But this is the biggest test for this horse, that's for certain.
It is, but he started off full of enthusiasm, really pulling for his head.
Well, here's a horse very full of enthusiasm still at the end of the course. World champion, reigning Burghley champion Blythe Tate. And I thought early on Blythe was taking it quite comfortably, but certainly on the clock he's quicker than we thought, and he's still clear. Blythe, who's now bought a farm down in New Zealand, he's going to commute, so we're still going to see him here in Great Britain, but he's got horses both north and south hemisphere, and he's going to try and win titles both sides of the equator.
Well, Dan Jocelyn coming to this dairy farm mound, spread hedge, 2 strides, and rides it easily. It's funny, some horses find it very easy and some haven't.
This is the orangery. The horse still pulling hard, that makes it more difficult. And Blythe, by his own admission, not very fit. And I think, to be honest, it does show, even for a world champion.
No. Pippa, huge jump, 2 strides, another big jump. Sometimes huge jumps just show the slight greenness of the horse. Allowing for all possibilities, he overjumps. Let's hope he doesn't do it in the second time. Those who've jumped in too big, no, sensible there. 3 strides, out. Very neat.
Very
Yeah, they've been working on that footing in the water because it's caused a problem or two, but no problems for Blythe Tate. He's well over though, he's lost time in the last half mile. And there we are, 37 seconds over, 38 in all, goes ninth for New Zealand. It's a real international looking leaderboard. Andrew Nicholson out in front for New Zealand. Remember, they've won it 5 times, and here's another Kiwi pressing for home, Pee-wee. This is a young horse, but by gosh, he's gone well.
He's really going to be a fantastic second horse to silence. He's gone a superbly, a very athletic jumper, really operated over the fences, and even though at the end of the course when he hit that, he was still very clever and sharp in landing to keep himself upright.
Well, not only the horse, Dan Joslin did well to recover.
You see it again, I think he takes just one stride to get him too close and doesn't get his knee up in time on the left-hand side, just hits it, but managed to recover well on landing.
Now, what about Pippa Funnell? Her husband was, of course, going to be on the show jumping squad for the World Equestrian Games. Sadly, he's had to retire, but Pippa, we hope, is part of that gold medal challenge for Britain. Now, what about Primore Pride? This is a difficult fence for her.
Yes, he's fighting a bit. He's showing his greenness here. She hasn't done it as smoothly as some, but it's not bad.
It certainly would have topped me off. I'm a bit short of a gallop or two myself, but yeah, he was a bit strong, and I didn't want to let him go any quicker because I would have had to have had a real fight with him at the fences. He's only young. He probably isn't ready to be competitive this year, but hopefully next year will be a very good horse.
Well, here's Dan Joslin, and he now is looking a real world-class rider. He's got better and better, and he's got another horse to match it, I would suggest, here with Pee-wee. And again, very, very close to that time, but we've only got, one man at the moment, 2 men, who've got actually on the time. No one inside. And another Kiwi, so Australia, England and New Zealand fighting it out.
Well, here's one of those men who got so near to the time on his first ride, William Fox Pitt. And they sail up that hill and the forehand is so light, they just spring over that fence so easily. It's a lovely feeling. Horses always jump uphill much easier than downhill.
Sitting there in the truck getting nervous all morning watching the trouble out there and the horse doing his first 4-star, but he really produced the goods today. I was thrilled, yeah, very good.
Yes, there's quite a few good riders who haven't made it, but so far so good for Pippa Funnell. Easily through the dairy farm. Now to William, our 2 key riders for the Worlds, out on course with young horses. 2 thoughts here, Lorna. Love to see them the money, but also love to see them safe home for 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, but if they have good rides here, puts them really confident for the World Games. Look at that, showing his greenness again, the strides along. He kicked back on that fence just to make sure he made it out into the water.
Now, there really has been quite a lot of concern about this. Well, they're all jumping in the same place because of the narrow fence out, and as a result, the footing has got very loose.
Just making the way down towards the...
This is Andrew Hoy, his second ride. Another horse taking on this top level for the first time. Remember, he's well placed with Mr. Prakatan at the moment.
Well, Pippa concentrating, just having to steady him in there. He's a very long striding horse. He almost made too much distance between those 2 hedges.
Highland lad, pretty inexperienced. Went well in the very popular 3-day event at Bramham up in North Yorkshire, but he jumps that very well.
Yeah, William made that look easy. He just did it on the S, which we almost thought was impossible.
So now coming to the Brush Valley crossing, Andrew Hoy. Bettina here, his wife, the European Open champion here in '97. She's got her horses ready for the Worlds and been helping Andrew today.
Pippa's still got a fair handful coming down into this 5 from home. Nice to see him so full of running.
It's quite interesting, Lorna, because in Punchestown he did definitely run out of petrol.
They do have to be fit. The course is very undulating. It's a long way, 4+ miles, having done steeplechase and roads and tracks already. They have to be fit, but in my opinion, there's no excuse for them not to be.
No, that's absolutely right. And incidentally, if a horse has a fall, in other words, the horse hits the ground, then the competitors these days have to retire. More and more horse-friendly rules. Now, what about the bank for Andrew? Is he going to throw his heart over? No, he is not. Well, I think it's fair to say that even the great Australian probably there was in two minds whether he really wanted to jump it.
When he comes in, it's very difficult. You've got to accelerate into it, and you can't on the downhill, really. Well, you can, but it's very difficult, and he just doesn't get his back leg up. He doesn't jump far enough up. The horse hasn't got the legs there with which to take off.
I bet in Andrew's mind, if he was honest, he was in two minds there, but it didn't pay off. He's retired, but Pippa Funnell storming home, and this long stride is deceptive because he looked rather languid earlier on, but look, he's only, what, 23, 24 seconds over the time, and Pippa will think of the future of this horse, looks at the clock, and after the very good dressage, despite 30 seconds over, is still in 6th place.
Well, another of our top riders also going to the World Games. Jeanette Breakwell on her second ride. Very good ride round here already today. And this one really setting off fast, the busker.
He wastes so much time in the air still. He jumps so big and quite difficult to sit on sometimes, but I mean, he was a really good boy. Just, I think, mentally and physically got a bit tired towards the end. I had to just nurse him a bit, and it's more important to me with a horse that sort of promising that, you know, he has got a big future, and why push him on when he's a bit tired anyway, so delighted.
Well, William Foxpitt storming home. Remember, it's Andrew Nicholson leading, then Leslie Law second, William third on his first ride, Mary King fourth, and Pippa Funnell at the moment has gone down to 6th place. But here's one who could change it. It's Polly Stockton riding the ex-Mark Todd horse, Word for Word. Well placed after dressage, 48.8. She was second, and she will have a go.
Well, she will. She's a brave girl. She's proved that, because riding two horses after Mark Todd is quite a challenge, because very few people can go as well as or improve on him. And so far, she's done a super job on I Spy, and now she's riding Word for Word.
Yes, I Spy, one of the 6 horses travelling to the Worlds. Now, William Foxpitt for home, and here's another classic ride, so close to the time. This man has just got everything. He really is the all-round rider. Such a good judgment of pace. So now he goes 3rd and 4th.
Jeanette Breakwell just concentrating. Very quick-moving horse. This just keeps him in hand.
Yes, this is a lovely young horse for her, but I thought her first ride on Plantagenet Russell for the Wookiees was one of the best rides of the day. She was one who didn't incur any time penalties.
Round the 5th, the Royal Cross corner.
Mary King on her second ride now. Whoops, a little behind the movement coming into that, saw Longy and let him go on it.
Well, Word for Word, owned by Mary Roos-Coney, actually hasn't gone in a 3-day event since Mark Todd rode him, and in fact, remember, he didn't ride him in the Sydney Olympics. He rode I Spy there. This horse has had more doctors' prescriptions than I think most, but he is still the horse that Toddy thought was one of the best ever. Now, can Polly produce it? Nasty moment there.
He was clever. He lost the front leg coming out, but he saved her very well there.
Well, this horse, the busker, was second at Bramham, looked a very good prospect, and Jeanette Breakwell is riding at the peak of her career.
So is Polly. She just shortens him up. Again, this, as we said earlier, this is where the dressage really comes into play. They must be obedient, they must be accurate and balanced.
Now, Mary King with Nick Engert's Ryan the 5th. Nick Engert, one of the many officials who have a horse and have top ride on us and really enjoy it. Now, it's a big horse for Mary, this one. Quite inexperienced.
Oh, and he just landed a little short. Whoops, he landed, just couldn't get his front legs out in time. He just dropped down and his front legs didn't come back out in time and threw her over here. You see him coming in, it's okay on the approach. Then he drops down very steep and doesn't get his front legs out and down again in time to rebalance and just loses Mary by the time he gets his head up.
Well, the best pike with twist of the day, I think, but Mary won't appreciate that. As Jeanette Breakwell comes to the orangery, and here's another well-judged round. And she could come into the money. The busker was on a good dressage score.
Polly also could come into the money.
I think the interesting thing about Polly, Lorna, is she's very good on the flat, brilliant across country. She's learnt the out in the hunting field with a wind stay, but show jumping is her weak link. She's gonna, though, I think, press the leader on this cross-country phase.
Well, she's certainly given this horse, well, they've given each other a very good ride round here, very confident. She's really ridden forward. Some people might say too far forward, but I like the forward attacking approach.
Jeanette Breakwell is going to add some penalties, time penalties that is, to her score. But team manager Yogi Breisner will be thrilled with his squad. They really have performed. And here's another of them. And her time, she could be number 3 to get no time penalties. Remember, we've had 2 on the time at the moment, but no one inside. So could Polly be the only one? And believe me, Mark Todd will know about this very, very quickly. If Polly can come home in second place, she's not going to get ahead of Andrew Nicholson because Andrew's dressage was just a little bit better, but she's going to go in second place, and that look on